Today, let's do this. Let's get going with some soft body Tetris stuff. So I've seen this quite a lot now on YouTube and shorts and stuff like that, and they're getting a lot of views. So look, if you want to start a channel, you know, I've had a go at an animation channel called Just a Dad. You know, I've got up to 10,000 subscribers, something like 9.2 million views in 90 days. So this stuff can work if you're interested in you know, making a YouTube channel. I found ASMR, soft body Tetris stuff is everywhere. There's lots of soft body stuff, and it uses Cinema 4D and similar programs. And yeah, look, what I'm saying is, let's have a look at this. Let's master it. You can then, you know, decide to do this for yourself. Right, so what we're going to do, let me just show you one that's been cached that I've been working on. This is available below this video. If you just want to grab these files, I've got about 3 in there, and because they do take a little bit of setting up. There's a lot of tweaking. Say a little bit, there's quite a lot of tweaking to do to get these to work. So let me just play what we've got. This is cached, so you can see that they're just all like randomly falling down, but they do have a system where they just all nicely line up. Now if you tried to do this just with a cloth tag on, they wouldn't quite work like this. They wouldn't interact very well. They'd all fall everywhere and not bounce very well, and they'd all crush on each other. So how do we get this to work? We'll break this down into stages. So that's kind of what we're after. And there's all sorts of patterns you can make and colours, and you can put all sorts of, you know, like can put hair on them and make them hairy. I've seen some really nice simulations that use hair on these as well, which looks really good. So basically the idea here is we have a constraint cube just here, which I've put what's this called, a display tag on it, and just turn it to line, just so you can see the lines there. So that's really what's happening, is we're just dropping it, and it doesn't have a top on it either. If I go to polygon mode and click on it there, we've got the sides, but we have no top. So basically it's just like a perspex clear tube, like a box, and we're dropping the shapes into it. That's basically what's happening. But if we go back here, like, you can see this is how we have to arrange it. The reason we've done this is if we have them all fall in from the grid, some will fall faster and gain more mass than others, so the whole thing doesn't work. So we have to have them all fall in from the same position. So let's do what I normally do here, and let's start with a blank screen and see what we can do with this scene. So let's just go for a new one. All right, let's go have a sip of coffee, because into 2024, New Year resolution didn't work out. I'm still drinking coffee, but it kind of keeps me awake, so I'm fine with that. Right then, so how do we make the Tetris pieces? Right, so first of all, let's grab a cube. Let's bring it down to 20 by 20 by 10. Okay, let's take out these the work plane, because it kind of gets in the way of the view. So that's the kind of starting block we're going to work with. Right, so what we do is we make it editable. So C on the keyboard, or this little icon here. Right, now we go into polygon mode, and we can select all of the sides of this. What we're going to do, we're going to create all the shapes based on this. So what I do is I copy that cube, just so we've always got a default cube to go back to. And then this one, let's start off with making the T, and then we turn off the view of the cube, so we only have the one here. Right, what we do then is we just select the top face, and you hold Control. I'm not sure what it is on the Mac, but it's Control on the Windows keyboard, and then you pull the arrow up. Well, in this case, it's a Z arrow, isn't it? The blue one. And then you hold Shift down now. Don't do it straight away as it goes into a... Let me just show you what happens. If you hold Control and Shift down, it does that, which is a bit strange. But if you hold Control and then start to pull it, and then press Shift, it will jump into increments. Obviously, right. So we've actually got an issue there where I've kind of, there we go. Let's start from the beginning. So we're starting with the cube. You click on the top one, press Control, bring it up. When it comes up to there, now press Shift, and then it will jump to these increments that you can see on the screen. Right. So that's the first one. We're going up. So it'll go to 20 because the cube is 20, wasn't it? So we're jumping up 20 centimeters. So now we select the side one, do the same thing, Control, pull the arrow out, and then press Shift, and then you'll see it jumps to the increments. So we do that to 20, and we do the same on this side, Control, pull it out, press Shift, and then snap it to 20. So there's the T. Right, so let's copy the cube again. Let's turn off the visibility of the T. Let's turn on this cube, and let's call this Z or Z, if you're in America, Z, if you're in the UK, Z. So we make a Z in a similar way to we made that one. We go Control, and we pull it up, and then we constrain it to 20. We take this bottom one, pull it out, sorry, didn't press Control. Press Control, pull it out, and then press Shift, and constrain it to 20. And the same again, press Control, pull it out, and constrain it with Shift to 20. So there's the Z or the Z. Right, let's turn that off. Let's do another copy of the cube, turn it on. What other letters on? Let's have the L. So let's put the L down there. Right, for the L, we need to extrude it up. Control, pull it up. Shift to 20, do the same again, pull it up, and then Shift to 20. And now we need to pull this one out, so Control, pull it out, and then Shift, and it snaps to 20. So that's L. We've got a left and a right L actually in Tetris. So we're going to create another L. So let's just copy that L and turn that one off, and then this one, L.1. If we just go to coordinates and say -1 in X here, look, that would jump it round to the other way. And then what I like to do is just right click and say connect objects and delete, and that will reset like the PSR and stuff, because we want this we want the axis to be at the same point, which I'll show you in a second how we do that on all of these, so they snap together better. Right, so we've created a T, a Z. We need another Z, don't we? So let's turn off the L, turn on the Z. There was also a Z that goes the other way. Okay, so it's a mirror of that one. So if we do that and create another Z, turn that one off. Now on this one, we do the same thing again. Go to X and do a -1, so it will just go the other way. And then right click and say connect objects and delete. Okay, so let's turn that off. So we need an I. So let's use the cube again and turn it on. And then for an I, it's actually 4 extrudes up. So it's Control, up, snap to 20. Do that again, snap to 20, and do that again, snap to 20. And let's call that I. And the last one is the cube itself. So let's turn that off, which is the box, and that's made up of 4 times this shape. So we just do the same thing, Control up and Shift, and now we just use the 2 sides and pull them out and constrain those to 20. So that is our, let's call that box. So that they are, I think they are all of our shapes. Yeah, we've got the T, which can't have a left or a right, that just spins over. We've got the Z one way, Z the other. We've got the L one way, L the other, and the I. I think that's all of them. Right, so what we do now, let's go make sure we're on ground shading with lines, or no, quick shading with lines will be quicker, I think. Let's grab a null, and then let's drop all of these into the null. And let's just make them all visible now. Let's turn it off. Excuse me. Let's have a sip of coffee. Yeah, I haven't done a tutorial for so long. I think I'm probably going to find it difficult to keep talking because yeah, usually when you're doing your animations on your own, you don't do any talking. So yeah, I may find it tough. Okay, here we go. So what we do is we want to reset, like I said, the axis down to this bottom left corner, because we want them all to snap from here. So how do we do that? Right, if we go to Tools go to axis, and then let's just pop this window out so we can see what we're doing. So if we grab them all and we go back to normal model mode, and then we go to axis center here, and we want to take the X and the Y back to -100. Okay, and it will drop it down to this corner. So if we execute that, look, they've all dropped down there. Let's leave this out because we're going to need this as we start to create new version, more versions of this, because we have to have more than these to make a Tetris grid. Right, so if we click on each one of these now, you'll see that what we do now to constrain it is we have to press down Shift, because if we just move it, will just move around like that. So we need to press Shift after it started moving. Don't do it first. If you do it first, you get that and it scales it. So you need to start moving it and then press Shift. And then, as you can see, that it's gone 15, 20, 25, 30. So it's jumping in nice increments. Okay, so they're all snapping onto each other. Okay, but move it first and then press Shift. Okay, yes, it will scale it. So if it does start to scale it, you'll know that you've pressed it first, and you need to just undo and do that again. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to subdivide this and then add a bevel. Okay, because if we subdivide it, it's going to act more like cloth and bounce a lot more convincingly. If we use it like this, it will act a bit more like cardboard or something more rigid. Right, so what we do is let's select all of these. Let's go to polygon mode, and now let's just first of all let's click the ones we made copies of, which is Z1 and L1, because we need to right click and reverse normals. Okay, because we basically flipped it over, so it's gonna possibly change the normals. So let's have a look. Yeah, look, we've got some issues with the normals here. So let's select that one, right click, say reverse, and click on the L like that, and then say reverse. Okay, as long as they're all the same, as long as they're all yellow, this is going to be fine. Right, so now we right click now and go to subdivide, and then here I think it's defaulted. I've used it at 3, that's why it's here. It'd normally be a 0, so let's put in a 3, and now that subdivides up into that, which I think will be fine for the cloth. Now we need to add a bevel. So if we go to the deformer menu here, the bevel is here, look. So select bevel, and we want to put that as a child of the null. All right, and straight away it adds a bevel to the very edges of everything, which is great. If we just go on to option and change the offset to say 2, just so we've got a slightly bigger bevel. Now if we click on these now, let's go back to object mode, say to click on the L, start moving it and then press Shift, so they start to snap. As you can see, we've got these really nice defined shapes that all snap to each other. Okay, so for example, the box, we can move it, press Shift, snap it out to there. Let's move some of these away. Let's move the T and snap that onto there, look, and then we can move. Let's see what we could do with these. Let's see if we can move that one, snap it to there. Yeah, well, I'm just going to start to build, like just a start of a grid. Now I'm not going to build the entire grid and work out every step of this. That's going to be in my link below. Okay, so below there is a link. So for only $2 you can grab about 3 Cinema 4D files complete with some of them are cached as well, complete with all of the motions, when they drop, all coloured, all linking up, making a perfect grid. So there's a lot of work there. So I'm giving it to you fairly cheap if you want to grab that. And what you could do is grab that and then look at the tutorial at the same time. So you can look at what I've done, make some changes and kind of make it your own. Because it does take a little while to set these up. Okay, so you've got to look at a grid really of these to see how they all interlock and to colour them to make them look good. But I'm just showing you the idea. So this is how you model them. The next thing I'm going to show you is the dynamics and the principle of how they all fall. Okay, what we need to do now is we need to have a container that contains these as they drop. Okay, so what I use is a box or cube, and we'll bring it up to there. So what we need to do first is just make this so we can see through it. So we right click, let's go to render display. Let's click on the first use, and then where it says ground shading, let's go down to lines. Okay, so it just gives you a transparent box view there. Let's go to all 4 views, and then let's just shrink this box quite tight to the the set of pieces here. We don't want them to move too much once they're in the box. We want them to be quite constrained in there. And then on this view, let's lift the box up so it contains them, make it a little bit bigger so they're all inside this box. Now this is going to be a clear box, you're not going to see this, it's just going to be there to keep the pieces in order, you know, to get them to fall down and not flop all over the place. Okay, so what we do, we right click and add a collider to that, but we need to take off the friction so it acts more like glass, and then we need to say select the back collider side because it's going to be the inside. And then now we could do that. We could actually take the top out of this. Let's make it editable, and then if we go to the polygon mode, we could select the top and just delete it. And then what that means is we don't have to have them inside the box. We could just drop this, say, down here, for example, and then they'll just fall in the hole in the top of the box. Okay, so that might work. And then obviously they'll stay here. So however many you've got will determine how much size, you know, the size of the box you want to contain them all in. Right, so let's start with the order of these. So the first one to drop could be the L. If you drop the T first, then you're not going to get these other pieces to go underneath it. So you need to drop one that sits flat on the bottom. Okay, so let's start with the L. Let's right click and add a cloth tag to that. Okay, so if we just play it now, I just want to show you what happens. It will kind of be okay. We've actually changed some project steps here, you know, which I was playing with earlier. So I'm going to put these back to their defaults, just so it's all like an even playing field for what you'll have. And take that out. All right, let's just try that again. So this is what you'll see, and then it all just collapses into the bottom. That's because on the cloth tag we have 10 on the bendiness. Right, we don't want this to flop and bend over, so we put a 0 in there, but we do want it to stretch a little. So 0.5. The thickness is the gap around this, how much is how closely it will react to other pieces around it. So we want to bring that down, say about 0.5. And then the friction, let's say 0.1. We want it to slide, but we don't want it to like be on ice and it just keeps sliding when it hits the bottom. We want it to stay. So 0.1 might be enough. It might have to increase it. And the other thing is we need the mass to be heavier. So let's go for about 5. And I've tried collider side on front, back, and both seems to work better. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Right, let's just try that again, see what we get. Still not great. And the reason for that is we need to change some project settings now. So we'll do Control D, and we need more steps, and we need more iterations. We need a bit of damping, and maybe some extra collisions here. Right, so let's just bring that up to say 30, about 4 on the iterations. Let's bring the damping up to about 15. Excuse me. And I think the collisions will be fine. Let's just see what we get now. Okay, not bad. You see, just by adding more sub-steps and iterations, it's made it more stable. There's more calculations happening, so it's applying it to what we want it to be. If you take them all away, it doesn't have enough calculations to act properly. So the more we put in, the more closely this resembles, like a real life simulation. So that's okay. Let's go 20 on damping. Let's see if we can just make that just slow a little. So the more we add, the other way to slow it down on the scene tab here, on the time scale, is we can say put a 0.5 in there, and then it will slow it. So that's probably more how you'd see Tetris pieces. Nice bit of slowness there. Let's just maybe go, let's go 0.8. Okay. Okay. But as you can see, there's so many things to change here to get this to work and for these to fall properly and everything else. So you just have to keep having a go with them. So that's the first one. Now what I would say now is as that hits the bottom, so as that contacts there, stop it on the timeline. And then we're going to say which one's next. Which one do we want to drop next? Let's drop the T, because then that could lay on top of here. So let's put the T up there in order. So we have them in order of them dropping. And now we'll just control and copy this cloth tag onto the T. Okay. And we want to turn on, we want to enable and unable or disable the dynamics. Okay. So at this point we'll record the position and say, just there, we want that to be active. If we go back one on the timeline, we can uncheck that and then record that position. So what will happen is the L will drop first. As soon as it bounces onto the floor, the T will then start to drop, you see? Because that's been activated. And then that will squidge and move down on there. Now, I'm just thinking now I've let the T drop, but actually, in this case, how does that Z drop and go underneath? We may be able to solve that by turning it over, you see. So this is where all the adjustments come in. We have to go, they can't just all drop perfectly down and all line up. They have to bounce off each other because it sort of adds to the look of it. And then we have to move them left or right and things like that. So this Z that we've got here, we could say, right, which one's the Z? It's there. So let's move that up to the third position because we want that to drop next. Let's just spin it over. Say, constrain it to 90 degrees and then move it over here. And then, right, let's just go back to the beginning. So we've got that one, and this one will drop. What I want it to do is hit and then scoot underneath the other one. Okay, so let's put the let's put a tag, sorry, let's put the cloth tag on there, and let's just run this and let's see what's going to happen so that drops. We don't want them both to drop together, do we? We want this one to drop later. So let's just move that forward. Let's just run that again. So we want them to drop in stages, in increments. So the L drops, there we go. As you can see, this is a classic example of what happens. Is you have a piece land, another piece hits it. The way the other one hits it determines whether it flips it over in the right way. This is not doing that. The L is actually moving away because it probably needs a little bit more friction added to this. As you can see, as it lands and this one hits it, look, it's started to move already. All right. So I think these need, say, they've got 0.1 on the friction. Let's have a look at let's add 0.1 onto the cube as well, you know, the container, and see if that helps. Let's see if 0.1's enough. Okay, is that a little bit better? That's not moved. So that hits that one, and that hits, ooh, but it didn't flip it. Now, there's a trick here. What we could do is we can move this one over like that. So when it falls on top of the T. See, this is trial and error. Depending on what shapes you've got here, will determine how they will all act. Right, so that's not, yeah. It skewed it and landed that way rather than flipped it underneath. It may not work. It may only work if we drop this one first, this Z. But obviously for you, what you'll do is you'll work out a grid. And obviously in my files below, they've already been worked out. If you want to take those, they're all mapped out, you know, to these perfect squares and rectangles with all these shapes already in them. So that's really the idea. And then you can colour these, obviously, and then start to build the pattern. I hope that's helped. If there's any questions that you're struggling with this, download the files. Any problems with that, let me know, and I'll try and answer them. So that's it. Look out for rigid body and ropes. All the problems I was having last year with things not connecting very well, having to do soft body, not rigid body. It's all going to be answered in the next few tutorials that I put out. My name's Mike German from Visual Animation. Take care. Goodbye for now.